Then one of them said to his mate, "Where shall we our breakfast take?"
I'm currently exhibiting a project called YWYE, W-Y-E, and it's a film installation that I've been working on and developing for, the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. I'm not exactly sure. And broadly speaking, it's a fictional film, which is my first fictional film, but very much installed on 3 screens and in an installation environment. And essentially it's trying to get inside the colonial mindset in the past, the present, and the speculated future. And through getting inside that colonial arrogance, trying to kind of explode it from within, explore my relationship to it as a white man in South Africa, trying to engage with the kind of masculine and racial narratives that I've inherited as a contemporary white man in South Africa, and to engage with that both in relation to kind of white guilt in relation to our history, but also on a more personal level, how I'm implicated in that history. I kind of came up with 3 characters. One is in the present and is what I kind of describe as an exaggeration of a typical white man who kind of complains about the politics and tries to get away from it all. That's in the present. In the past, the character is an 1820 settler who is an Englishman who comes to South Africa, and I did a lot of research about the actual 1820 settlers, and he's kind of caught between the real expedient political use of those settlers by the colonial government and his own kind of cultural arrogance. And then I also came up with a character in the future who's actually Australian, and this character kind of comes to South Africa with the arrogance of progress, sees he or herself, because it's kind of not sure whether it's a man or a woman, as kind of more advanced than the people that he or she is studying.
A strange thing to look down upon the world from this window.
I think the work is very much my response to the current climate. I think it's a hugely important and difficult time in our kind of public discourse. And as a white man, I think a lot of my kind of contemporaries are not acknowledging enough how the conversations that we should have really had 20 years ago, when in '94, are coming up now. And I think that's coming up in very interesting and important ways with some of the student movements, and that's very much, I see that as kind of hangover anger at both the way that in very material ways not enough has changed, but also the way our discourses haven't changed enough. My instinct is very much to keep quiet, because I feel that's other people's anger. At the same time, I'm an artist and I make work, and it's very important for me to kind of acknowledge my position in that and try and without it being a kind of obvious kind of one-sided kind of, I hate to use the term black and white kind of issue, but I want to implicate myself, and I want to explore my own relationship to these histories and these.
It's such a complex history.
It's uncomfortable work. I think it's challenging to a lot of people. I think it's challenging to the complacency of a lot of white people who see it, and I think it's I don't want to focus too much on the white audience, but I think in many ways I did want to provoke responses, and everybody seems to have engaged with it, in very interesting ways.
Lighter.
I want people to look at historical narrative outside of the set discourses. So the historical narratives the fictional historical narratives that I tell are very kind of unstable. They shift between the screens, they shift between past, present, and future. They shift geographically between England, South Africa, and Australia. And by kind of, I guess, mixing the audience into those narratives, I'm asking them to kind of question the history, their understanding of history, and also trying to implicate them in that history, you know, wherever they come from and whatever their backgrounds are.
And was thus one of the last million migrants to be welcomed in Australia.